historically, turnout amongst Muslims at elections has been a little bit lower than the white British population, but it has been going up. Also, it's always been true that Muslims, because many of them have, I mean, some are converts, of course, but many of them have connections with overseas countries. For example, I was born in Pakistan, and so foreign policy is often of more relevance to Muslim voters than to white British voters.
But, you know, like we see in elections in Pakistan, it gets quite tasty, doesn't it, there, with violence and stuff, and that's sort of coming a bit over here. Can you see any of that?
Not really.
With the by-election, it was a bit...
I mean, the passions were, I understand, quite high in Rochdale. I didn't set foot in Rochdale myself, but people are very concerned about what's happening in Gaza, understandably.
But there were threats.
Understandably, but if I get another idiot suggesting to me that I'm a genocide enabler, I'm going to get very angry, and that the people wouldn't like me if I get angry. I hear myself getting angry now. This is not the way we behave in this country. What we don't want is to lose, and I think you would agree, if you were in Pakistan, you don't want to lose the culture and the way your country is. But we seem to have a minority at the moment trying their hardest to take over.
I agree, but it is a very small minority.
I agree
Most
with you.
Muslims
They've got
in
a loud
Britain,
voice, though, haven't they? Every Saturday, I mean, we see.
Well, they have a loud voice, and of course it suits certain parts of the media to put them on because they make good television or good newspaper copy.
Well, when you've got, you know, these sort of issues to talk about, and people would rather phone in to a program like this or talk about it online or whatever than they would vote. I'm thinking along the lines now that we ought to have compulsory voting in this country, and we have to be very careful that nobody is abusing the way voting is being carried out. I mean, for instance, if I had put something as rude as from the river to the sea and shot it on Parliament, I probably would have been tracked down and prosecuted.
Well, I understand that, I didn't know this actually, that projecting things on public buildings apparently is an offence. I didn't know that.
Since they put Gail Porter on naked in the 90s, they made an actual specific law for it. But I mean, what about the phrase "from the river to the sea"? I mean, what's your view? The Prime Minister says it's genocidal, it's a trope, and the police come out and go, "Oh well, you know, a crowd can say it depends on the context," like the Harvard University. What do you think about?
Well, the phrase "from the river to the sea" does depend on its context. For example, it's used in the charter of the Likud political party in Israel. They're obviously not using it with genocide.
Yeah, but it originally comes from clearing the Jews out in a genocide and pushing them into the sea.
It is the most offensive thing you could say. I mean, let's not beat about the bush. Let's not be nice about it. From the river to the sea, shouted by the people who are shouting it, echoed by the mindless morons who are the majority of the marches, don't even know what they're talking about, haven't even got a clue as to what happened around the, I'm quite old, around the founding, if you like, of Israel and how all of that happened. It is saying we want to get rid of Israel, we want our country back, and that's what we're going to do. So it's really promoting genocide.
If somebody is using it to talk about genocide, if somebody is using it to say we want to expel Jews from Israel, then that's clearly wrong. But that is not the way that everybody uses that.
Yeah, but that's sort
just
of
a minute.
That's sort of irrelevant, though,
just
isn't
a
it?
minute.
That's irrelevant because there is a section of the community, the Jewish community, that say it is that. So why are you carrying on with it when you know the Jewish community finds it offensive?
I didn't know you were a mind reader, because you can't tell what's in somebody's mind when they shout out this appalling thing. And so let's make it clear. If the law doesn't make it clear, change the bloody law. Because calling from the river to the sea by these idiots who are going out much, you must agree, you can't tell what's in their mind or how they're saying it.
Most crimes in this country, with a few exceptions, for example, parking on a double yellow line, nobody cares about intent. It's quite clear. If you park on a double yellow line, that's an offence.
Well, it is.
But most crimes in this country do depend upon intent. The difference between murder and manslaughter is one of intent.
You can't shout out a racist word and say, "Oh no, I was saying it was the Latin word I was using."
Yeah, supposing there was a march of people and some people were shouting it out: "Kill the Pakistanis, get them out of our country. Let's get rid of every Muslim in this country. We don't need this because all Muslims want to do is take over the world and make everybody take up their religion." I am secular. I don't like any religion. They're all ridiculous in my mind. If we were to do that, If go on a march and shout out, "Send the Pakistanis home," or something even worse, we'd be in so much trouble.
Yes, you would. And the intent of that phrase is quite clear. The intent of the phrase "from the river to the sea."
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you like you're a lawyer. That is complete rubbish.
Do you think jihad can mean like a contemplation sort of rather than war when they're waging jihad in those marches? Or do you think that also depends on what they're thinking inside?
If they are using the word jihad to call for people to go and fight against Israel, I think that is wrong.
But that's what do you think that's what they're doing on the protests?
And what do
or
you,
are some people thinking of it as some other way?
What do you think about the behaviour of those people that have now meant that a school teacher has had to hide away for 3 years? A school has been closed down because the Muslim parents threatened the head teacher. What would you say to those people?
I've looked at that situation in Batley in a great detail through the media. I've read about it. I'm very interested. I believe strongly there should be no blasphemy laws. I think the behaviour of the people concerned is utterly deplorable. The teacher actually did everything right. He warned his pupils in advance what he was going to show them. He explained why he was going to show it to them. He also gave them every opportunity to not watch it if they didn't want to, because he wanted to have a discussion. And instead, he has been in fear of his life, and that is utterly disgraceful.
So what would you say to those people who follow Islam? And the people who follow Islam, the serious ones, want to see this country converted to Islam. They would like to see Sharia law brought in where it can. We can't allow that. Yet our police and a lot of our politicians are too scared to put their foot down and say no. And what's going to happen? This is what worries me, Mohammed. What worries me is this is just going to bring up the nastiness of the extreme right.
Well, first of all, you said that people who follow Islam seriously want to impose Sharia law on everybody else. Is that what you said?
I think that's what I said.
Well,
extremists and those who want to change this country from... I believe we're a secular country. You can follow any religion you like. I would like to see the bishops out of the House of Lords, and I would like to see religion move down with the sort of power that it has and the power that it's trying to have.
There is a small extremist minority that does want to impose Sharia law on other people. The overwhelming majority of Muslims disagree with them. I strongly disagree with them. I believe that everybody has freedom to practice their religion. Would I like you to and other people to convert to Islam? Yes, I would, because I think it's the best religion. In the same way that a Christian would like you to convert to Christianity and a Mormon would like you to convert to Mormonism. But do I want to impose it on you? No, I don't.
No, but why do you want me to think about converting to Islam? I think religion is a ridiculous, stupid idea where people who are frightened of dying... Now, I'm terminally ill, so I'm not frightened of dying at all, and some people wish it would happen sooner rather than later, I know. And it doesn't bother me at all. But if I was to say, I think that the Islamic religion that preaches, like all religions actually, preaches quite a bit of nastiness as well, was worth taking notice of. I don't. But you can pray and do whatever you want without it getting in the way of normal secular life. So can the Christians and the Hindus and Buddhists and whoever else. But you cannot get in the way of the normal law of the land, which is what some people want to do.
And I agree with you.
So why is it important for you to even say, yes, I would quite like you to convert to Islam?
Because I think Islam is the best way of life. I don't think you would be a happier person if you were a Muslim.
I can assure you I wouldn't. I mean, the fact is that, you know, apparently you have the right to do certain things in Islam. God gave you the right. You don't even know if there's a God, do you? Let's be honest. If I was very rude about Allah or whatever it is, I'd have death threats galore. If I said something rude about Jesus Christ, nobody actually noticed.
Threatening you would be entirely wrong, in my view. I'm utterly clear on this point. There should never be a blasphemy law anywhere.
But you say there's a minority. How big is the minority? Is it thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
I don't have statistical surveys.
You don't actually know, do you? But it seems like there's a lot.
I don't think so.
You don't see all the...
I haven't seen any evidence.
So how many do you think? Hundreds?
Well, even a few hundred people, of course, can create an enormous...
Well, we've got Hamas leaders living here and people arranging it from, you know, links to that organisation.
How is your view on Hamas? Do you believe they're terrorists?
I believe that Hamas are terrorists. I wrote in 2014, it's there on my website, it's an article originally on the Conservative Home website. I've written over 70 pieces for Conservative Home, for Paul Goodman. I said that Hamas are basically awful people and they are seriously harming Palestinian interests.
What can be done? Final question. What can be done to sort this ridiculous mess out where 100,000 or so people go on the streets each weekend shouting out all kinds of hatred? You know, we did have kill the Jews at one point. That was a regular thing. Not only that, they're pretty rude to the people who they're passing in the streets. It's not a very fair religion, is it? It doesn't seem to treat people who are not believers.
The protests
very well.
aren't really, you know, they're quite violent, aren't they?
How do we stop
The
it?
protests, I've never been on any of these protests, but as far as I'm aware from the media, these protests are overwhelmingly peaceful.
No, they don't look it when you look at it.
They're noisy. If people are breaking the law, they
Yeah,
need
but if
to
a
be
Jewish guy
prosecuted.
goes in, they'll all sort of round upon him. If there was an Iranian guy the other day and he said a Hamas terrorist, they're throwing things at him and the police
But
arrested the
hang on,
guy
hang
just
on.
having his freedom of speech.
Why are people like Ash, who's Jewish, and living in a Jewish area of London, why are they so scared? Why are they worried about sending their children to school? I mean, it
Well,
just makes me
unfortunately,
think that Islam is one of the worst religions you could ever have.
Unfortunately, there's been a big increase in anti-Semitism since the 7th of October. Most of that is actually not coming numerically from Muslims.
The 7th
Oh, really?
of
Where's it
October...
coming from?
It's coming from white British far-right
You sure about
people.
that? You sure
Remember,
about
Muslims are 6.5% of the population.
I know.
94%
I don't
of
think
the
you're right with that.
population. 94% of the population in this country.
So you're
is
saying it's
non-Muslim.
far-right white people having a go at Jews, is it?
Yes.
No, that's not true.
It's not rubbish. It's
Not true.
rubbish.
Load of rubbish.
I mean, the fact is that that isn't acceptable.
Are you scared of the extremists? Have you been threatened?
No, I've not been threatened.
But why do they go around threatening so many people? And when they're on these marches, the vast majority, I would imagine, are students who aren't religious in any way, shape or form, but think they're doing something good. They're just a little misguided by certain parts of the media and the academic world who seem to have this kind of lib-lab, flim-flam view on everything. And we need in this country to start taking life more seriously. We need to say to somebody who wants to walk around saying, from the river to the sea, I don't care what you think you mean, you're getting locked up, mate. And if anybody carries on in this way, let's curtail all religions from having so much power. You can have a church or a mosque, but only a couple here and there.
Well, first of all, we have a tradition of freedom in this country.
Well, we're not. We're having it taken away by all these people who are going
It's
around
been taken
saying,
advantage of,
Yeah.
hasn't it? That's the thing.
I don't agree with you on that.
We'll have to agree to disagree.
I mean, that, you don't think that these people who are marching, blocking streets, shouting abuse at people...
In the by-election, threatening to rape people's wives and burn their offices down.
People who do that should be prosecuted.
Well, that's how the Rochdale by-election, that's what occurred in it. Simon Tanjuk got threatened with lots of people. There was lots. It was crazy, wasn't it?
Well, what action have the police taken? They need to take action.
Yeah, but
They'd
don't, do
probably
they?
say
That's the
what
thing.
you've said.
They're enabled. They're
You know,
enablers.
because the people who are leading the police in this country are useless. So I've already told them.
Yeah.
And what the Prime Minister, who I think made a really good speech outside Number 10 the other day, I think it was an excellent speech. Let's hope now something is going to come from it, because I think we're in trouble.
We are one of the most peaceful countries in the world.
That's why everybody comes here, and everybody comes here from other countries and says, oh, we don't like it really, we don't like what you do. Well, bugger off, don't stay here.
And what's choosing an MP got to do with Gaza when there's local issues going on and everyone's just basing it on Gaza, and that's what happened to George Galloway getting? What's the point in that?
People are free to vote based
but-
upon the things that are important to them.
Yeah, but it's skewed the democratic system, hasn't it? Because it's a pointless thing they're doing, you know, for,
I mean,
for an MP.
I don't have
They're
any
protesting
sympathy.
council meetings in Chorley.
I don't have any sympathy for George Galloway. I'm a Liberal Democrat. I think George Galloway is, frankly, a bit of an idiot. But if people want to vote for him, that is their right in a free country.
Well, and that's the trouble, isn't it?
But the problem is
Gets hijacked.
60% of the people in that region didn't vote. And so if you are able to motivate a minority, you are actually going to be able to take over the freedoms we have in this country. And if we were governed by an Islamic view, we'd have all freedoms.
Earlier on, you said we should have compulsory voting in this country.
Well, sure, yeah.
I agree with you. They have that in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it would ensure that everybody's voice was heard. So I have no problems on that with that at all.
Mohammed, thank you for coming in. You hopefully common sense will prevail. That's what worries me, that it's getting taken over by a minority.
I am confident that common sense will prevail.
Brilliant. Well, we'll talk again when it does.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.